Okay, perfect. So welcome back to the Christian Witch Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Chosen, also known as Christian Witch HTX over on Instagram, TikTok, all of the social medias. This is your first time catching the podcast. I'm a certified professional psychic medium, and I own the Elysium Academy of Mystical Arts, where I train people internationally in witchcraft, healing, psychic development. I'm also the senior pastor of the original online church for Christian witches called Christian Witch in the Craft. You can find all of my information at the link in my bio, or you can go to christianwitchhtx.com. I am joined today by a really exciting special guest. I'm so excited. I cannot believe she agreed to do this podcast. So it is Ambrosia the Witch from TikTok. She's going to introduce herself, but just a quick little background. She is the one that is coming up with the funny Witchtok Helpline skit. She makes the tarot cards jump, and she has no problem calling people on their BS. So I'm super excited to just get to know her a little bit. And I'm actually really excited. I haven't asked her any questions really about her practice or anything. I wanted to save it all for the podcast. So Ambrosia, feel free to introduce yourself. Let everyone know where they can connect with you. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So yeah, Ambrosia the Witch on TikTok and I guess all platforms, Instagram, whatnot. And I own the Veiled Arts Apothecary. So that's witchy skincare, bath products, spells, lotions, potions, and also the Academy of Veiled Arts, where I teach my practice. And yeah, that's pretty much me at the moment.
Pretty much you at the moment. It's a lot of you at the moment. That's amazing. Congratulations on all that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess like a good place that I always start is like, I always ask my guests, how did you arrive at the place that you're at currently? Or like, what was it like growing up? What drew you to this whole realm? Like, how did you end up where you're at? And feel free to share as little or as much as possible.
Yeah, well, it's a bit a long journey. So I've been practicing for about 23 years. And my awakening into witchcraft was the movie The Craft in the 90s. There was just something about it. It was just so seductive. And because I grew up in a spiritual household, so my mother was into astrology and tarot and spiritualism, the witchcraft aspect really was just like the next step for me. And so I just threw myself into research, like anything that I could, which back then was mostly Wicca. And because I couldn't get a hold of a lot of information, I started forming my own theories and putting my own things into practice. And I really went from there. And it's always been a part of me and just something that I had as more of a hobby, I say, until TikTok.
Yeah.
And then I was seeing a lot of witchy content and kind of being like, I don't know if that's right, or I wouldn't do it that way, and I saw that there was a bit of a hole in kind of the education piece about, certain concepts and things. And my guys are like, stop rolling your eyes and make some content then. Like, shut up about it.
They called you?
They called me out. So I did. I started making more tarot-based stuff because I really wasn't comfortable sharing my practice yet. I saw creators getting, picked apart for things, and I was just like, I'm not interested in that. But it started peeking through the tarot content, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna share it working and see what happens. And people loved it. And so I just kept sharing, and here I am.
Oh, that's awesome. So you have your own theory and system that you've created.
Yeah, because I had no influence. So I had to really come up with it. And what I've really so now that I have access to a lot of, philosophy and other systems and things like that, it's really comforting to see that the stuff I thought up on my own is actually what others do as well. And I'm like, yes. So that's really cool.
That's amazing. I bet that was really really learning to trust your intuition on that. That's got to be so confirming and affirming to realize like, oh my God, like I tapped into these universal truths. Like
exactly.
Yes. That's awesome. And you teach that over at the Veiled Arts, correct?
Yeah. So I start right from the beginning, like the concepts that I engage with in my practice, things that are spiritual truths to me, and they are that way because I've engaged with them multiple times. And it's like I don't teach anything that I haven't done, haven't experienced. A lot of my lessons come along with personal anecdotes and as much evidence as I can share on a personal, and a lot of it is UPG, but being able to share that and try to give them examples of how this kind of thing could show up for them, keeping everybody's eyes open, because there's a real subtlety to how energy works and spirit connection. And it's, you know, maybe the movie The Craft inspired me, but it's not like that at all.
Yeah, no joke, right?
Especially in the communication piece with spirit, it's so much more in the physical than just hearing voices in your head, that kind of thing.
I agree 100%. You know what's funny now that you say that is I talk about this sometimes in my academy because I teach the same thing. I'm like, you know, it's not like the movies, but like as you grow and you learn and you start looking at like the design laws is what I call them, the metaphysical philosophy behind it all, like some of that stuff would actually work if you put a little tweaking on it. It's like really funny. I mean, maybe not the craft, but but like Charmed and stuff like that. I'm like, you know, some of that actually could work if you like tweaked it a little bit.
It's funny. I just started watching Charmed again, and I haven't seen it in a really long time. And now, like looking with the more knowledge that I have now and some of the spells and things, I'm like, I could probably swing that now.
Right? That's awesome. I love Charmed. We keep it on repeat in the house. It's such a comfort show for me. What season are you on?
On season 2.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
They have a totally off topic, but they have a rewatch podcast with in the show it's Piper, Holly, and their son from season 6. They're rewatching all the seasons and they just went through season 2. And then Shannon Doherty just dropped a podcast, and her and Holly Marie Combs just did an episode. So
I caught a snippet of it.
Yeah,
and all the kind of underlying tensions that were going on with the cast.
Yeah, it's funny because you hear all these stories and you're like, okay, but all that was going on and y'all still pulled this off. Like that's like kudos to you. Yeah.
You wouldn't tell, like with the connection with them on screen, you wouldn't know that.
I know. It's wild. It's wild to like hear stories like that. So anyway, sorry to throw you off topic. So we were talking about your practice and like how you kind of formed it yourself. Give us like a glimpse. Like, what does it look like? Like we know you're like thebomb.com with the cards, and I've seen some like working videos, like little clips that you show, and it seems like it's very physical and involved. But like on a daily basis, like what is it practically like on a day-to-day for you?
Yeah,
and you don't have to share anything super intimate.
Well, of course. Yeah, so now that I'm doing this full time, it's very involved. Whereas previously, when it was more of a hobby, it was, you know, observed on the lunar like cycles and little rituals just for little things here and there or as needed. Now it's it's every day. It's every day. So not that I'm doing a ritual every day or a spell every day, but I've got a lot of energetic things in place to support me. So if that's like wearing talismans, amulets, oils, you know, the constant upkeep of my energy and grounding, because I'm expending so much more because I am practicing more, because of the apothecary as well. All of my oils and things are spelled. They're done through rituals. So there's like 3 parts to actually construct it, and they take a lot of energy. So I have to really have a good energetic practice, like good spiritual hygiene. So that's what takes the most of my time. Like now that I'm connecting and channeling on a bigger level as well, because I am wanting to write books and I'm channeling an oracle deck and things like that. So there's a daily connection, and I'm also, you know, doing some spiritual journeys in established systems too. So I'm just accumulating stuff, like trying to level up. Well, that's it. I never want to run out of things to teach people. So I want to, you know, expand myself and take what I've learned and then share it. But so like daily, it's a daily meditation, it's connection, it's daily divination. I'm also doing readings for people, so there's energy in that needs to be upkept. Offerings, cleansings,
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lot daily.
awesome. It's funny, like the more advanced we become, the more stuff that we practice, like the most common things we practice are like the basics. It's like you
Oh,
understand how
absolutely.
fundamental they are.
Without a good foundation, you really can't achieve much. And
I'm telling
you
you.
will burn out. And I've done it. I've burnt myself out. And then the message I got was your foundation is shit. You need
Yeah,
to
wow.
get back to the basics. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like you can't operate at that level on no energy. So
That's amazing. And also like it's very honorable that you can receive a message like that and then actually own it and do the work. Like that's awesome. Like for people listening, that's not common in this realm, guys. Like people receive the message and then like duck and cover.
truly though, and it's a message, and it's one I've been given multiple times, and one that I've given to others and seeing it in their reading, and it's like, okay, and then they'll come back and it's the same message, and it's like, did you do the work? No. Okay, well, you're still where you were. So let's I know it's practical actual work though. It's not all, again, like the movies, or you click your fingers and things happen. You've got to put the work in. And it's my new is like going to the gym. You're working different muscles. You're working your spiritual muscles. So you have to meditate, get in control of your energy, do all of those things.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, and I kind of I have a way that I'm trying to think of it right now. I word it this way with like students and clients and stuff. I always tell them, I say the more like you increase your capacity for spirit, like the more like you'll carry with you on a day-to-day basis. And so like doing that, stretching those muscles, because that's what I call it when we're learning like the psychic senses, or we're learning divination and stuff like that. I'm like, you guys, like, don't freak out. Like, we proved that you can do it. It doesn't mean you're going to be amazing every time. You got to work those muscles, right? And they get bigger and better every time.
Yeah. I find especially with energy work, because that's something that I'm like, just self-guided and tap into and practice. If I let it slip for a month or so and I go back and try to do the same thing, I can't.
Yeah. Like an energy ball. You get an energy ball ever?
Yeah. And like, it's not like I don't have the ability. My muscles are weak because I haven't been keeping up with it.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so funny. Speaking of stretching your skills and stuff, do you have a favorite clair that you like to lean into the most? Like clairvoyance, clairaudience?
Yeah, it is my clairvoyance. And in fact, it's my dominant clair, but it's also something that I have to work on because it's a crutch for me. I just lean on it too much, and my other senses aren't as sharp because of that. And that's a spiritual lesson that that's been shoved in my face a little bit, to not rely on it so much because it's easy for me, but I'd be a better practitioner if the other senses were up to that level. So
I feel
I I had it taken away.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and this is like a big UPG story, but I in a spiritual test, I guess you could call it, it was taken away. And so it was like I had aphantasia for like a week or so. Like I couldn't see anything in my mind's eye, nothing. Couldn't even like be at the grocery store and like, oh, what's in the fridge? Like couldn't even, nothing. And I had a breakdown. I was devastated. I was like, oh my God. And I worked through it. And so I did like spend the time getting the clairsentience up and the claircognizance, and like, especially doing readings for people, I had to say to them, listen, I'm in a bit of a situation. I'm going to do this reading a little differently than I normally do. If at any point you don't feel like I'm connecting or hitting, please let me know. I'll reschedule you, or we'll just give you a refund. Like, are you okay with that? And they were, and I was able to connect through feeling and knowing, and rather than seeing everything. But it's still, I got it back.
Clearly.
But it was basically with the warning of, okay, well, you really do need to do the work on the other senses. So it's something that I'm mindful of and really do need to put in place. You tell somebody that story and they think you're a fucking crazy person.
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, I have, okay, so like I just wrapped up our course for the year, and I have students, they'll message me, they'll be like, I can't feel energy all of a sudden. Like I feel like I can't feel it. And that used to be my most dominant sense. And I'm like, spirit is shifting your attention to the other clairs. Like you need to pay attention, like work with the one that's most dominant right now. Okay. It's not that you can't do it. It's just right now your focus is somewhere else because that's a little less terrifying for them to hear. And so I completely get what you're saying. Matter of fact, like it's funny because you're talking about things. I'm like, if I had this conversation with anyone else, like,
some of my stories, and like I want to share them on like TikTok and do like story times, but I'm like, no, honey, you can't tell people that. Like,
you might be able to.
Maybe
in the book. Maybe in the book.
Yeah, maybe I'll do a memoir or something.
That's so funny. You can just do like a short form podcast where you just like tell like quick few minute stories that are too like risky for TikTok.
Yeah, okay. And I'm just mindful that those kinds of experiences can be taken the wrong way in a lot of different ways. Like especially if somebody's feeling a little unbalanced within their spirituality and hearing a story like some of the stories I've had, it could scare them or whatnot. Yeah. So
I completely understand that. There's things that so I'm like you, I do this full time as well. And I also work in the psychic medium world as well. Like I know you do readings as well. And it's funny. It's not funny. It's there is a balance. There's a delicacy, right? Like you have to steward your calling almost, because you have to meet people where they're at, and you have to not only provide them a healthy reading, but like there's ethics involved, and like there's almost like this unspoken like leadership quality where you have to discern like how's their mental realm, can they hear things with this vocabulary, is it going to freak them out and make them spiral? It's I've actually set the boundary that loved ones can only come through if it's for healing or benefit, and if it's gonna cause them to spiral, just we're just not gonna come through at this session. So I feel you on that, and like having to balance that. That's cool. Okay, so that's interesting. I love that you have like formed your own practice, because so I come from a Christian background, and we all know the mainstream church has screwed things up, but not the point. But I was lucky enough to come from the realm where they taught us to heal, they taught us to lay hands, they taught us to have visions, interpret dreams, to expect miracle signs and wonders. And even though they have their own bad ideologies, like they were still light years ahead of the other crowd. Right. And so I was lucky that I had that faith kind of stirred up in me, and like had like a practice ground basically. And so I'm building like my own system as well to kind of translate it for people who have only known that for decades. And it's almost like I guess like, here, if you would like to stay in this realm and still practice, like here's everything you need to know. And I'm having to correlate things that I intuitively understood that nobody directly taught me. And so when you were sharing about how like a lot of your practice was UPG, I was just like, that's so like awesome to meet someone else who's like kind of had a similar experience where like they kind of had to intuit the supernatural realm and like learn how to operate in it and test the theories and get the results and share from experience, because I'm real big on experiential knowledge. Like if you can experience it, like one of the things I teach right out the gate is like, let's prove to you that you're not a nutcase. Let's prove to you that you can feel energy. And then once you believe it, then you can start working towards it, So I really do. I love that about you. Not to fanboy. Okay. So I have a question. Do you ever do tarot spreads, or are you just kind of the kind of person that just like intuitively pulls as many cards as you need?
I don't do any of the tradition. I used to do the traditional spreads, like the Celtic cross and things. I don't anymore. I depending on the question, I may only need a card or two, because the cards are really just the prompt for the message. So the imagery on the card will trigger the message, or I'll hear it, or it comes through in so many different ways. But if I'm looking at the energy of a situation, so my readings are less calling people in and more looking at the person and saying, okay, let's look at you, your energy, where you are right now. Let's see what blockages you have, what goals, and what's some practical spiritual steps from your team where they would like to see you move towards, and that sort of thing. So I usually just do the 5 cards. So the center card is them, where they are right now, or the goal or whatnot, and the representation of that. Then the next 2 are the outside influences, so the things directly influencing them right now. And then the next cards are the way through on either side. And I do it in the 5 because it could be 2 separate things, or it could be the same thing with different dimensions. And then I can go deeper into each facet by getting additional cards. And that works really well for me in the kind of readings that I do. So that's just, I don't know, again, through experience. And I just kind of came to it over time, and that's the best way that I've connected. So
I love that so much. I'm the same way. I don't do the classical spreads. I kind of just, like you said, follow spirit. I pull guides and readings as well. So I feel you when you say all that. I think it's interesting, like when I know one of my guests reads cards, I like to ask, a little bit about like the way they like to do it for listeners, because there's so much misinformation. Like I can't tell you how many times I have to tell people, like, you can buy your own tarot deck. It's okay, darling. Like stuff like that. And if you don't know, you don't know. But it's just nice to hear other people's perspectives and other people's phrasing. Like maybe something you say just gets across easier than something I could say. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, so are there any like misconceptions or myths about like what you do, or like just this whole world that you live in, that you want to just like debunk for listeners?
For me personally, that people think about me?
Are there any like myths or misconceptions? Because I think you're a rock star. Like, I think it's awesome.
Honestly, I think if anybody does have any, I don't know about them, and I live by the what you think about me is none of my business. So yeah, I'm incredibly blessed on, well, am I a witch? But I don't get a lot of hate. I don't get I'll get a straight fundamental Christian every now and then, but or a science bro trying to tell me that it doesn't work or whatever. But for the majority, I get a lot of love on there, and I'm really, really grateful for it. So you see some witches on TikTok who are, was in a scandal or getting called out for stuff. Knock on wood, that hasn't been me yet. So
I know. And you listen, you have, I think it was like 120 something thousand followers. Like, it's just a wild amount of people that you're in front of, and like hearing that you don't get a lot of hate is actually like super refreshing. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Cool. Every now and then, if you see me replying to a comment, it's because I feel like I usually do it in jest, and I'm really like sarcastic and whatever.
I picked that one up.
Yeah, that's about it though. And otherwise I just ignore it, whatever.
Speaking of the ingest, the Witchtok Helpline is hilarious. I think it's so funny. I think the one that really, like, I literally spit my coffee out was, you were like, if you're a Christian, please be redirected to Pastor Gregory Locke. And I was like, oh my God.
But I don't think anybody got the Gregory Locke reference, but the Gregory, it was from Cruel Intentions, when he's calling, he's like, Gregory, because he's closeted.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. That's wild. That's so funny. Yeah, he is insane. Allegedly. Allegedly. For legal purposes, allegedly. Yeah, that one had me, I was rolling on that one. So, like, how many times did you have to, like, film those videos?
You know what? I'm getting better at keeping a straight face. I lose it afterwards because so I get through it, and then because I think I'm so funny. I think I'm the funniest person ever. So,
same. I'm so much fun to be around.
So if I'm not laughing at it, then why would I post it? It's like, it's not funny. So yeah, I'm getting better at keeping it straight. It only takes like 1 or 2 takes. It's because I don't script it. I just start talking.
That's even more funny. That's great. That's so
Like I have
awesome.
like I have an idea of like what the topic's going to be, and then I just go for it.
That's
So then
awesome.
I'll watch it back, and I'm like, yeah, that's funny enough. But then I get annoyed sometimes because I'm like, oh, I should have just said that. That would have been even funnier. But I think if I script it, then it takes away like just my energy in the way that it is. So I don't try too hard.
Well, I think it's freaking awesome for someone not trying too hard. So what are you reading right now? Are you reading? Are you listening to anything? Got any music or books that are inspiring you?
I'm currently reading the Forbidden Rites and Necromancer's Handbook from the 17th century.
That's gonna be golden.
Just a little bit of light reading.
Just a little bit of light reading before bed.
A lot of my readings, I am going into the past, into like the 15th, 16th, 17th century grimoires and philosophy. So, and the inspiration for that was, some of these spiritual journeys I've been on. The call was to go to the past and adapt what they had. So to kind of take, I mean, a lot of it is very backwards and convoluted, and especially some of that ceremonial magic is just, it's difficult for a reason. I understand that. And I think I can maybe take some of those rituals and make them a little bit more modern and accessible as well. So I'm just kind of musing with that, seeing what they had to say. There's a lot of interesting correlation between Christianity, Catholicism, and the ritual ceremonial magic, especially with in terms of necromancy back then. So really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. The ceremonial magic, like, so what we have today is all reconstituted magical systems that are stemming from whatever ceremonial stuff they could like basically reconstruct. And it also comes from like this Near Eastern, Judaic, Abrahamic, Persian belief system. So it's like, it's wild to see like the church be so against it when it like they were so involved at the beginning of it.
So involved, and literally had necromancers on the payroll. So it's so interesting how the switch changed to fear rather than using it as a tool as they once did.
I know, it's kind of wild. There was a term, I believe, I don't remember what I was thinking there, but I will say this, like modern day exorcist, they're so backed up with like the official quote unquote church that they'll work with people that are outside of the church now because they know that it works, which is wild in and of itself. It's like, oh, like the Vatican's calling up psychic mediums in the United States to go handle these paranormal consultations. That's wild.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting. It's like seeing things bleed over. I don't know. I'm kind of just waiting for it all, the BS, to just like filter out, or we can all just like move on and live our life. But okay, so astrology. How are you on astrology? How do you feel about it? Are you into it?
I know enough to get by, and it's one of the things that I'll be branching further into next year. So yeah.
Cool. Do you know your big three?
I certainly do.
Awesome. I'm the same way. I'm the I know just enough to make you think I know more than I do.
Yeah. I know enough to judge somebody's birth chart.
Yeah. I just picked up a really great book. And it's different. It's not traditional astrology. That's a Demetria George or something like that's a good author for those listening that want to study traditional astrology. But I picked up Stephen Forrest's The Inner Sky, and the first two chapters were just like so simple yet so almost like it's almost beautiful. Like the way he just broke it down, he's like, listen, like this is just the language. Let's learn it together. And I was like, this doesn't seem nearly as intimidating. So for those of you listening who are like going to message me asking for astrology books, there you go. Stephen Forrest, The Inner Sky. Did you pick up any astrology books? Are you just on the list to do?
I'm just putting that in my Amazon cart.
Awesome.
So most of what I've learned about astrology. So when I was younger, my mother was very much into it. So I read a lot of her older books from back then, which was more about, I guess, was more sun sign related, I suppose. And she'd have like an almanac and things like that. And she brought me this kit that had the wheels and all of the, but it was so long ago and I don't have it anymore. And so that was like my base, like getting into it. And yeah, everything else I've learned about astrology has been through tarot, the associations with tarot. So that's interesting, and it does show up in people's readings. I can like, oh, you've got a lot of Libra energy here, and they'll be like, I'm a Libra, and I'm like, oh my god, of course. So that sort of thing. But then yeah, reading my own birth chart and getting deeper into that, because you start with the self. So I've done that, and I don't really have any like. I don't think I'll ever like read birth charts for other people or do anything like that, unless like in a like friend sense. But yeah, I want to get more into it to understand me, where I am right now in terms of the cosmos, and how I can use it more effectively in my daily practice.
That's exactly what that book you just wrote down is he was talking about. He said it doesn't matter if you believe in the supernatural or if you were like pure science. It's just a way to understand the energies at play and like help you get along in life, and like it gives you a leg up. So I think you'll like that one. That's awesome. Also, it's really cool that you had like all of those resources like growing up. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, it was.
I'm hesitant to dive into astrology too deep because I don't want to get overwhelmed. But I have spirit like will sometimes tell me people's like their signs like in readings, and I'll write it down. I don't ask questions in my readings. I don't ask questions, and then at the very end I'll be like, by the way, what is your sun sign, or what is your rising sign, or your moon, if they know it. And I don't think it's only happened a handful of times, and every time it's accurate, and I'm just like, that's so wild, because I don't even know astrology that spirit can come through and say stuff like that. So anyways, I don't know why I shared that. I guess I just felt really comfortable with you. Anyways, odd. Moving on.
Do you know have they told you what my big three are?
No.
So I'm a Capricorn sun, an Aquarius rising, and a Sagittarius moon.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome. Oh, Sag moon. Okay, so you're vibing right now. I'm no, they haven't told me what yours were. That's interesting. I am a Sag sun, Taurus rising, Pisces moon. So
I love a Pisces moon. If I could have a placement, it would be Pisces moon or a Pisces sun. I love the Pisces energy. I have a Pisces Mars and a Pisces Jupiter, and that's like the only connection I have into it. But I love Pisces energy.
Oh, that's amazing. I will say this also for those of you who are sensitive out there listening to this, like learning astrology can also kind of like give you some reprieve from all the stuff you're going through, and you kind of realize like, oh, it's all a big cosmic joke, or honestly, I'm not a nutcase, I'm sensitive by design. Like
just understanding, even I know everybody like gives Mercury retrograde a belting, but the first day of Mercury retrograde, my reading site just completely crashed. I was forced to move it onto a different platform. It was a whole thing, and I'm just like, yeah, this tracks. Like,
oh my god, yeah, it's retrograde's wild. I will say this is the first one in the last 3 or 4 cycles that has not started with something going wrong with my car. Every time my car breaks down. It's just wild. Okay, so astrology, yeah. So it can definitely give you guys some reprieve. I grew up super sensitive, like, because I felt everyone's energy, but like no one knew. Like I didn't get taught spiritual like energy health awareness until later in life. But anyways, learning that, oh, I have like a grand water trine, like I have a lot of water, and like I'm very sensitive. It made so much sense growing up, because I would go to school and I would get sick all the time, but when I would come home, I would feel fine. It was because I was overwhelmed with the energy. So that's an extreme case, but some people out there, I've had them message and be like, oh my god, like I downloaded the Pattern app, and I feel like I just had like 5 years of therapy.
That app, I get screenshots from that app from people all the time. Like I'll give them a reading, and then the app will say something to confirm something I said, and they'll send me the screenshot and be like, oh my god, I just got this pop-up, and I'll be like, yeah.
my best friend jokes all the time. He like it because he's aware, but he's not doing the work. He's just like family at this point. But he'll see it, he'll read it, and he'll just like throw his phone out the window. He's just like he's like, why does it read me to filth every time? Like, I don't know, man. Lean in, do the work. It's worth it. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so what about like I may have missed it if you said it already, but what about like fiction stuff, like non-spiritual self-development stuff? Are you into any of that right now? I know you said you were rewatching Charmed. So
Yeah. So rewatching Charmed, I don't, and you know, that's just, it's a background show because I have seen it before, but yeah. I don't read a lot of like fiction anymore. I used to, but now because I am trying to expand, it's like anytime that I have to read, I'm chasing knowledge. So there was one non-fiction book that I did read. It was so funny. It was given to me as a gift at a time when I was searching for answers, and the title of the book correlated to something that I was going through. And the book in itself actually had a lot of answers for me. And it was this dark romance, magical, and it was about cards, these cards that had powers, and it was wild. So I read it because I recognized it as a gift and it had some meaning in there. Even though it wasn't an educational book, there was I got a lot out of it. So when things like that happen, I follow the clues. So instead of just throwing that book on the bookshelf, I saw it as the sign and got something out of it. So yeah, if a book or a show or something comes up and I feel like there is something there for me in terms of a message, I'll engage with it. But yeah, otherwise I'm pretty busy. That's
awesome. No, I know. I feel you. I understand that. In the same way, I have to like make myself not do something constructive, like give myself a break. I'm like, showering is not the only time you have to yourself. Like you need to like, I'm like, and even then I'm talking to spirits. So, I feel you. Okay, so I was gonna ask you, and you can share as little or as much as you want, but I know you mentioned you were writing books and you have some projects that you're working on for this like next year. What can you tell us, or what can people get excited for, or is there like a pre-order or like somewhere they need to be looking? What kind of like what's coming, I guess?
Yeah, so yeah, nothing tangible in the sense of like pre-ordering or anything, but the first book is practice, well, my practice, I guess. It's based on the academy, so just in book form and going even more in depth on like the concepts of my practice and the spiritual truths of it, that sort of thing. I find a lot of like beginner witchcraft books are very
lacking.
Yes, just like
so lacking.
And they're not a practical guide to start practicing. Like they're like little bits of information, very surface level. So I want to give. It's a beginner book, sure, but it's also like the next step. Like it's going to take you further than some of these off-the-shelf books that you can get these days. And then after that, once you understand the concepts and the energy and how to engage with it and my language as well, then a grimoire-esque type book for spells and rituals and things like that will come afterwards. So you can refer back to it because, again, grimoire type books, like recipe books, they don't explain a lot of the information that you need to actually execute the spells. So and they'll go hand in hand. So like a volume 1 or a volume 2, and then maybe a volume 3. I'd love to do something focused towards kids. I've got kids and they're going to be practicing, and just I think the earlier you start, the best leg up that you have. So just little things that they can do to connect with nature, and innocent yet effective things that if you foster will make you a very good practitioner when you're older. Don't have to have them summoning anything or anything like that,
sure.
but just understanding that, like, and even astrology and understanding themselves and their makeup. I have a whole lesson on understanding who you are and what makes you special in the academy. So that is your birth chart. That is, are you fire dominant, water dominant, air dominant? So you can tap into those energies during your practice. I'm fire dominant. That's why I lean into it so much. But others are water dominant, and they find more success using that as the conduit for their energy. So understanding those aspects of yourself is really important.
It's so important. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get these books. If I had the freaking time, I would take your class. That's awesome. I'm really excited about that, and I would love to see you do something focused more towards a younger crowd as well. I think because you are a mother, right? And so I feel like you also have that heart behind it. So that's awesome. That's awesome. With season 3 here at the Christian Witch Podcast, we have a theme. It's like practical stuff, um, what like is there anything like practical advice you would give somebody no matter where they're at on their walk, but like maybe one of your favorite practical tips for like practicing, or maybe not like a 101 type tip that you would hope more people knew about?
A practical tip that isn't quite 101.
It could be 101, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think like incorporating it into like the mundane is probably my most practical tip. Like making, like the best part about witchcraft and the I think the thing that people forget is that it is wondrous. It is exciting and beautiful, and to really look at it through the eyes of like a kid, where it's like, oh my, and be excited about it, and make your tea with, you know, knowing that those herbs are sacred and the water is an element that's going to, you know, imbibe with your body, and you're going to bring that into your energy, and like using, I don't know, just the wonder of it, to see all of these little tasks that you can do every day as a magical thing, and seeing it in that light. Like taking a shower, yeah, that's a mundane thing, or it could be something really special. You don't even need anything with it except the water, and seeing that water is this beautiful, nurturing element that is cleansing your body, cleansing your spirit. Like there's not a task in the day that you can't make magical in some way. So
that is so beautiful.
I'd say, yeah, look at it like that. And that's what makes it fun. Even cleaning my house is fun now because it's a magical experience.
It is. It's definitely magical. That's awesome. I agree with you 100%. When you were talking, it reminded me of, and this is going to be more geared towards people who come from an Abrahamic faith-based background, but there was this version of like worship music where it was really just people who were very intuitive and mediumistic, and they were just channel lyrics over beautiful instrumental music. And there was this song, and it says, "May we never lose our wonder, wide-eyed and mystified, walking in the beauty of your ways." And I think that is such a good reference point, and also like I don't know, just statement. I think I love that you were using the word wonder. Like I got excited every time I heard it, because I try to use that word when I explain this to people, and I don't know if it always hits. And I just think, I don't know, I just really love that you chose that word to describe it. And it was exactly the word I would have used. I love that so much. Let us never lose our wonder. Like make it, see the sacred, magical, mystical in every little thing. I think that's so cool. That's a great practical advice and practical thing that you can apply in day-to-day life. Even just making coffee, like you said, cleaning your house, a shower, just seeing it. That's awesome. So I challenge everybody to definitely start looking at your day-to-day activities, see what is magical, see what can be mystical, and honor it. You know, you don't have to sit down and meditate for 3 hours to call yourself a practitioner. You can take a shower and honor the water.
Exactly. So you can go out and stand in the wind. I love like zooming out on things and seeing how incredibly complex and impossible that they exist, but they do. Like, how cool is it that we have weather systems and all of right? And it's energy that we can tap into, and it's not just the mundane, it's not just the wind blowing, you know. It's science bros kill me with this stuff, because I'll do something and they're like, well, that's thermodynamics, and I was like, okay, isn't that awesome? Like, isn't that incredible? Right? Isn't it incredible?
Quantum physics.
Right? Amazing that I'm able to tap into something like that. Like, isn't that, and like, just because you've put a label on it doesn't mean it's not just mind blowing. Like their mind stops being blown because, oh, science has figured it out. It's still incredible. Like, it's still
I know.
insane.
Like light bulbs, electricity, like that is literally energy out of thin air.
You and I speaking right now, fucking incredible.
Sorcery.
It's sorcery. It is.
It's so wild. I know, that's so awesome. I love that answer. I think that's one of my favorite answers I've gotten. I tend to be a little sappy sometimes, so I tend to think that way, but so I love that
The
that was your
Pisces
answer.
moon.
It is that Pisces moon. Girl, that Pisces moon, that grand water trine gets me in trouble. Um, okay. So here's one of the questions that I like to ask all my guests. And I don't always ask it appropriately. So if you have questions, let me know. But is there anything that you wished, like, and I'm not talking about like a listener or a follower or a new friend, it can be anyone in the world. But is there anything that when you're getting to know someone new that you wished they knew about you, but like obviously they wouldn't know to ask it or they wouldn't know to think about it? Like, is there anything that you just want people to know about you that maybe it's just, it can't just be communicated instantly? And I know there's times where like, we say things like we want our energy to speak on our behalf, but not everybody's paying attention to energy, you
Right.
know? So what's something or some things that if you were getting to know someone new that you would want them to know somehow, some way about you?
Honestly, I think it's that I am a deeply flawed human. I am
Okay.
and I it's because some people like approach me and think that I've got it all figured out and that I, am this elevated person that I fuck up all the time.
Yeah.
I have trauma. I've got stuff, I do things sometimes and I don't really know why. And then I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Like I don't, and nobody does, and it's okay. And I think sometimes I might do something. I guess this is like more in my personal life where, maybe I'm a bit
Okay.
detached or whatever. And I am a detached person. I don't make friends easily. I'm, very much a solo person. Even though I share a
Mhm.
lot, it's very much a one-way sort of situation.
Yeah.
And, I have my reasons for that, but then they do catch a glimpse of me on a personal level and they're like, oh, you're just a regular person. It's like, well, of fucking
It,
course I am.
yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I don't have nearly the amount of followers you have. But even just on a mundane level, like you were saying, I've had people get to know me and they realize that they've almost had a little bit of uh, like a hero complex, I guess is the right word. And as soon as they realize I'm not better than them or I can't meet all those ideas that they formed in their head, it can be kind of devastating. And
Yeah.
so like the way I try to counteract that is like being as compassionate, kind, and as real as possible and just, trying to make them feel as comfortable and normal. That way it kind of like breaks down any of that like, oh, I've seen him on TikTok or I've heard him on the podcast kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not the same exact experience, but I feel you on that. That's something that I think is really, what's the word? I think it's, I don't want to keep just saying awesome, but I think it's very honorable and self-aware of you to say something like that, to be like, listen, I'm just human, and like that's what I want you to know is like I'm just showing up doing the work. And
Yeah.
what I heard you say in that answer though was that you're resilient. You are showing up and doing the work even when you mess up. So I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. I think if you're going to put anybody on a pedestal and they will only like disappoint you. So don't do it.
Yeah.
Just see everybody as they are. Like, yes, some people have got more
Yeah.
years on you. Some people are, practicing full time. So you see the development or you see the difference in it.
Hmm.
And yeah, that can be inspiring, but don't think that they're better than you by any means. When it comes down to who they are as a person, like everybody's got their own personality flaws, traits, traumas. Nobody's above it. So, and I just,
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of it weirds me out sometimes when they're like, oh, but like some of the things people say to me, and I'm like, stop it, like no, like I'm not that. Like it's like, oh my God, like I'm such a big fan. And it's like that's like it's so flattering and I love it,
So sweet,
obviously.
but also so weird, right?
It's so weird. Like, please don't idolize me. You're putting your faith in the wrong person. Like I'm
No.
teaching you what I know, but like I'm not aspiring to be any kind of figure like that. I don't think I'm built for it.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I'm I'm reminded some of my mentors in leadership throughout my adulthood. What I'm thankful for is they always taught me, like, don't trust something because I said it. Like, always seek it out on your own. But also,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna fail you. I'm going to fail you, and you need to make sure that, like, when I do so, like, it's not devastating to you. I mean, they didn't word it like that, but like
Yeah.
that was the message, right? Because like you said, you do see people that if they're online, you see them practicing more, they're full time, maybe they're excelling in areas that you aspire to excel in, and that's cool to admire that. But if we're not careful, we can also kind of like put oh, well, they're better than me. And then there's all these like unspoken accidental beliefs that go along with that. So
Yeah,
I think it's a good sign of character, and also, I mean, ironically, it's a good sign of leadership for you to have that heart and to be able to say that. So, those of you listening, I would trust Ambrosia. Doesn't mean you have to believe everything that
No,
she
please
says,
don't.
but her heart's in the right place.
I've had people tell me, like, yeah, you're a leader, you're a natural leader, and I'm just a reluctant one because I know it comes with so much responsibility. And we'll throw to astrology. I got a lot of placements that don't want any responsibility.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, at least you're a powerful witch, and you have that to help you out if it ever comes along.
Yeah, exactly. No, I do love being like a leader in my community and things like that. I do love it, and guiding people as best I can. I'm just not great at the interpersonal one-on-one stuff, because I take on so much. That's why I am like kind of apprehensive about new friendships, because I do love very deeply, and when I let somebody in, it's a big deal, and it's just a lot for me. So I know that about myself, so I don't test people to be a part of my life or anything, but I am I wait until I kind of give somebody that kind of energy, because it is a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, some people would refer to that as healthy boundaries, and I aspire to one day have those. I aspire to have those. I'm constantly struggling with those. Oh, that's funny. All right. What? Oh my gosh, it's already been an hour. Son of a gun. Okay, let me see. I have like a little list of questions to make sure I asked everything. Yep, asked everything. Well, cool. Well, this is fun. I can't thank you enough for sharing your heart with me in so many different ways and just spending time. And you did great on the one-on-one with this. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a social person and I love it, but when getting deep with somebody, because I've got a Scorpio Venus, so I like to get deep, and when I want to know someone, I want to know everything about them, how they like everything that makes them tick, and like it kind of takes over you for a little bit, and when I just don't have the capacity for it.
That's so funny.
For me, like if we're not like deep friends, then what's the point? Like having surface level friendships for me is just kind of like, okay, like does nothing for me. So it's like I don't engage.
I understand. I hear you. I'm that person that's like, hi, what's your childhood trauma? Like,
yes. Well, people just tell me. They'll just unload. That
part,
yeah.
yes.
I'm like, okay.
There's a catchphrase that I've noticed over the course of my life. It's, I don't know why I'm telling you this. I've never told anyone.
Right.
I'm like at the grocery store.
Yeah, right. My God. People, especially, the randoms who come up. I'm always incredibly like nice, and because I don't know why, but some people who are in mental crisis seem to find me in public, and so like I try to help as much as I can. It's really interesting, some of the experiences you've had when you're spiritually open. Like people get guided to you, and people get guided to me all the time, and it's just for a season. It's not forever, and I understand that. I'm just there to help for a minute, and I do my best, and off they go.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a healthy mindset. It couldn't have anything to do with all that healing energy you're radiating. I have no idea how they find you.
Yeah, definitely. I know who sends them sometimes. They'll show up and I'll be like, all right, I know why you're here. Okay, cool. But I don't say anything. I just let it all play out, and then I'll mention the deity or the spirit at the end, and they're like, oh my God, I've just started researching them. And I'll be like, oh my God, no
That's
way.
wild.
That's so weird.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's funny. That's so funny. Okay, so remind everybody where they can, or what's coming up, where they can find you, And don't forget to tell them about the products and services that you offer so that they can book with you if they're interested.
Oh, okay, sure. So yeah, Ambrosia the Witch on TikTok, which is like my short form content where I just am a goof, but sometimes I share knowledge sometimes. Depends how I feel. And then the Academy of Veiled Arts, which is my Patreon, which is where I share all of my educational content. And that includes, you know, the actual foundations of my practice, as well as spell work and constructing spells and things like that. Then the Apothecary, which is the Veiled Arts Apothecary, is my store where I sell enchanted oils, spell kits. Yeah, I have a lot of different products there. It's mostly like my philosophy in that is like, you know, it's glamour, it's magic, and it's self-care put together. So there's that, and there's, you know, other items as well. And my services, I do tarot readings, so over Google Meet one-on-one. And you could also book those through the Apothecary website now, because Mercury retrograde tanked my other booking site, so which was good. I see it as a blessing because it forced me to kind of consolidate things, and so I'm not annoyed anymore, but it's all good. And then yeah, keep an eye out in the future. Yeah, some books in the works, an oracle deck in the works. It's all, I mean, I don't have a timeline on that sort of stuff.
That's totally fine. At least they know
it will happen. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So this is all you guys will be hearing. So thank you guys for listening and tuning in with us. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season wherever you are in the world. I hope you're smiling. I'm sending you guys so much love. If you need to get a hold of me, christianwitchhtx.com, or you can find me on all social media at christianwitchhtx. And yeah, you know where to go for all that. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.